Coming up.
What a beautiful piece of art.
I've done a version that hits the time.
Why use one word when you can use 10?
My word is God.
So I've only got the 12 notes.
Or do I just go 1950s?
And sometimes speed and humanization kill each other.
I am completely technically competent,
No way, really?
but I'm also an artistic being.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
And then last night was just a couple in front of the telly.
Tis what it is.
And so useful.
Yes, I'm still a voice.
And now, enjoy the podcast.
How do you say that?
How do you say that?
How do you say that?
How do you say that? Hello and welcome to today's episode of How Do You Say That, sponsored by VoxBox, the portable, foldable, storable audio booth. I'm here with my co-host Sam Boffin.
Hello, and I am here with Mark Rice.
Indeed you are. And we're about to have our weekly hit of voiceover fun with some scripts and a brand new guest.
Yes, so welcome to the practical podcast for voiceovers. And remember, if you do find it fun and useful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the pod so you never miss an episode.
Right, today's fun fact about Sam is that she's off to see Back to the Future later in the week. Apparently it's brilliant.
I know. Apparently, I'm very excited about it, actually, because I have not been to see a musical in town for some years. Now, and I'm obsessed with what do I wear? Do I do a Marty McFly? Do I dress up in a orange puffer jacket? Or do I just go 1950s?
50s.
Okay.
Always 50s.
Okay, so you think puffer jacket? No, don't do it.
Not so much. No.
Okay. And Mark's fun fact is that he is an avid fan of Strictly Come Dancing. Mm-hmm. But apparently you watch it in a unique way. What is this unique way that you watch it in?
Well, I don't like the dancing. I like the comments and I like the pre-films and I like the judging, but I don't actually, I kind of watch it 10 minutes on delay and speed through the dancing because that's the bit I don't really care about.
How can you enjoy the judging without having watched the dancing?
Oh, I like what they say about them. I don't really care what they do. Because I don't know anything about dancing, so I know it's weird, isn't it?
Anyway, enough of Strictly. So let us get to our special guest, because today we're talking to voice actor Chris Tester. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hello. Hi. Lovely to be
It is
here.
lovely to have you here.
So
Thank
nice
you for coming
to
on.
have
Well, Chris graduated from Warwick Uni in 2003, then from Central Drama School in 2008. He spent 12 years doing mainly stage work while VO slowly crept into view before it became his main job from around 2017. He comes from a family of teachers, no less.
And that, my friends, is all that Chris shared with us, which to me was tantalisingly brief. So
yes.
I've gone out and found a few more facts about Chris.
God. Okay.
So as a voice actor, he has been in Total War, Warhammer 2, Unsinkable, and I love this, Lego Marvel Superheroes 2.
Fantastic.
He is also an experienced audiobook narrator and hot off the press after being nominated 22 times in various voiceover categories at various awards ceremonies across the world. Chris, on the 23rd time, has won Male Voiceover of the Year 2024 at this year's Vox Awards.
Richly deserved too. Well done.
Thank you very much. We can all breathe again and get on with our lives.
Exactly.
So thank you.
So, Chris, do you have a fun fact for us?
My weird fun fact is that before any of this acting malarkey, I wanted to be a golf professional.
No way, really?
That was my thing before. My whole kind of separate identity was that it was the first thing that I got quite good at. Because I was terrible at sports. I was terrible at all kind of like team sports and that kind of thing. Because I was very sickly as a child. So that was my excuse anyway. But that was the first thing that I got really fascinated about. And also the time being out in nature in a different kind of way. So in Somerset, that's what I did. And I got really good. I got down to about like a three handicap, so that's 3 shots away from a kind of a professional level.
Oh my God.
When I was at my best, probably around about 17.
Were you the Tiger Woods of Somerset?
No, I most certainly was not the Tiger Woods of Somerset. Yeah, I was watching people like Tiger Woods, and basically more the generation, just to age myself appropriately, more the Nick Faldos. So the people who were wearing the +4s as opposed to the sexy Nike kind of stuff hadn't quite really dominated the market in that kind of like way. But it was the first time actually that I realised I just wasn't good enough. Not quite good enough to actually make it in something. Because the people, and that was quite, we all get these realizations or moments of, oh, okay, this dream ain't necessarily gonna happen.
With that distinctly over par fun fact, let's tee up the first script of the show and ask, how do you say that?
Dear Lord.
Wow.
How do you say that?
Okay, so this is a little script I actually did at the end of last week.
I don't know what it is, Sam. Is it
you know?
documentary by any chance?
It reads more like an audiobook to me.
Possibly.
But,
Wow.
Or a travel log. I don't.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah, good thinking.
It's actually, well, I suppose it's more documentary than anything, but it is. So within this piece, I flipped between first person and slightly more third person.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I took a bit out of the script that was more first person because it's all about the blue forest. In other words, the forest that is under the sea.
In the water.
And it's a visual piece. I am sort of POV camera, I suppose. I'm POV diver.
That's an interesting twist.
It's really interesting,
Yes.
actually. It was a beautiful script.
So it's from the diver's perspective, in effect.
Some of it is from diver's perspective. In fact, it's from a marine biologist's perspective, both
Okay.
as a diver, but then also talking about how the blue forest supports the ecosystem and the world. It's a really interesting little piece, actually.
So were you voicing to picture?
I wasn't voicing to picture, but was something that they did which was phenomenally useful for me and something that I don't think has ever happened with a brand new client. He said, would you mind if I did some visualization with you? And so within a minute of getting on, we all closed our eyes. We imagined ourselves, on the edge of the sea in scuba gear. We imagined diving in. We went under the water. It was quite extraordinary and so useful. So useful.
Well, let me have a go. I'm kind of thinking almost Blue Planet-esque.
Okay.
My free dive in the kelp is at summer's end, when the water is still balmy from a season of sunshine. The kelp looks shabby, abraded and overgrown, signs of imminent change and a shift towards autumn underwater. An invisible pulse of energy sweeps the ragged fronds one way, bending and flexing the stipes, then hauls them back the other. They flutter and billow in the flow like drapes in a blustering wind as the surge pours through and over them. In heavy seas, this is where their strength lies. No oak, pine or redwood tree could survive such ferocity on land.
Yeah. Lovely.
Very nice.
Very nice. But nice and understated. I liked what you were doing there.
I thought it probably needed that,
Yeah.
with the language that was being used.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're all friends here, Mark. So I've only got the
Indeed.
12 notes.
12 is good. 12
yeah,
is good.
no. I mean, this is the realm of subjectivity. So caveat with that. My thing was be about pacing. Is the only real kind of thing for me. Is that because people are taking in the image and then the voice is going under it as well. I think sometimes there's that, not exactly a call and response, but you've got to go, here it is. Now I'm going to tell you what I think about it. You can go the other way, which is that you make everything so slow and so ponderous that we never really get to the end. And we're always really thinking about the sound as opposed to what the fuck we're actually saying. And what I love about your read is that, there was actually something quite front-footed so that when you talk about the ferocity on the land, you go like, oh, okay, yeah, it is the fact that this whole environment is undergoing quite a lot of change. It's not just, oh, it looks pretty. It doesn't look pretty. That's the point. There are bits that are overgrown. It's a bit of a mess. There's lots of things going on there. So you kind of like, you missed one thing of it, but I think it's trying to find that balance. It's subjective how much you either decide to lean in it or not.
Indeed.
Like, you pretty much didn't at all.
Oh,
like,
I thought I was leaning into it reasonably hard.
For Mark.
Okay, well, this is what I mean by it's subjective. I was like, oh no, I could milk that far. I could milk that far more.
Well, do you know what? I'm going to hand it over to you then, Chris, because I want to hear how you do it now.
Yeah, I'm just going to be covered in milk.
Amazing.
Potentially, yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay.
Yes.
Great. My free dive in the kelp is at summer's end, when the water is still balmy from a season of sunshine. The kelp looks shabby, abraded and overgrown, signs of imminent change and a shift towards autumn underwater. An invisible pulse of energy sweeps the ragged fronds one way, bending and flexing the stipes, then hauls them back the other. They flutter and billow in the flow like drapes in a blustering wind as the surge pours through and over them. In the heavy seas, this is where their strength lies. No oak, pine or redwood tree could survive such ferocity on land. So yeah, covered in milk.
I see what you mean. You lent into it harder. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
The other thing was that because it was first person, I felt that you were seeing it for the first time, noticing it for the first time, if you see what I mean, so that you hadn't necessarily seen, the bending and flexing one way and the other way sort of thing, that I was with you at the point that you were seeing that.
I think that's a great exercise in terms of like, in terms of the visualization of you kind of going like, what's your journey from one to the other? We're focusing on those kind of things, and then, there's a thing on the periphery of your vision, and then that pulls your focus.
The shock and awe of seeing the kelp.
Yeah.
Potentially, anyway. It's a beautiful script.
Well, go on then, Sam.
Okay,
Put us
well,
out
I'll
of
do
our
what
misery.
I did. Could be done
You're going to do it as a scouser now, aren't you?
a number of different ways, I'm sure, but this is what I did. So, my free dive in the kelp is at summer's end, when the water is still balmy from a season of sunshine. The kelp look shabby, abraded and overgrown, signs of imminent change and a shift towards autumn underwater. An invisible pulse of energy sweeps the ragged fronds one way, bending and flexing the stipes, then hauls them back the other. They flutter and billow in the flow, like drapes in a blustering wind, as the surge pours through and over them. In heavy seas, this is where their strength lies. No oak, pine or redwood tree could survive such ferocity on land.
You shifted speed a number of times within that. I think that neither of us did, Chris, interestingly.
Yeah,
what I got very much from that, it was very definitely from the diver's perspective. I got much more documentary from diver's perspective, I think, within that read.
I suppose I had the bonus of knowing what the shifts were. This is what the ecosystem does, and then we kind of go back to the dive. I start off at the dive, I come out of it, I sit on the edge of the water, I talk about things in a broader sense, then I go back into the free dive. So I suppose from as somebody that knows the script, I sort of know the.
But yeah, I mean, it's even just trying to find that kind of like journey whenever kind of possible, rather than getting lulled into too much of.
Yeah,
it's this kind of read, or it's this kind of sound, or that kind of thing. It's very important. Certainly, like when I, because we don't really do kind of like documentary coaching in the UK, but in the US, of course you do, because you can't move for the coaches. So I worked with the wonderful Tom Pinto.
Yes.
UK markets and US markets of documentary are very different in a lot of ways, but still that appreciation of what else are you working with and placing the voice in the context is so vitally important.
Well, it's worthwhile remembering that these are real scripts that we've been working on, but we've changed some names and some details to avoid copyright issues. And while we're on the subject of scripts, guys, you can find both the ones we're using today in the show notes of this episode. Go on, have a look. How would you read them? That's what we want to know.
How would you read them? Well, Chris, tell us a little bit about the script that you brought along.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, it was for a radio ad, and I don't do that many radio ads. They don't allow me on. I refuse because they say I'm not regional enough, and I go, "What? You can't hear my thick Manc accent." So I don't know why. Anyway, so this was quite novel to get this. It was for a charity, and it was to do with alcoholism. And so, this whole campaign of people's awareness, this actually it's a sequence of different ads. So different people at different stages with different relationships to the person who has the issue. As ever, it was kind of like, here's quite a wordy script. Yeah. Oh, and also here's 30 seconds. And you're like, absolutely fantastic. Well, I mean, with this... Well, with this, it was slightly less painful because it was like 40 seconds because they had like some tags at the end that they needed to do. there's too much text here,
Yes.
which is a challenge. But the client has signed off on this and only this. So we have to use it.
As soon as you introduced it, Chris, I was really hoping you would not say the word commercial.
Yeah.
and I bet Sam's the same, because actually that is really very wordy to be able to constrict into a certain amount of time.
Yeah. And it's an incredibly combustive situation because it's someone denying, going like,
course,
I've not
absolutely.
got a problem. I'm absolutely fine. I'm totally fine. And so all of the ums and the hesitations or awkward silences that would actually be part of that scenario, you're like, well, that's out the window. Great.
That's
fantastic.
literally out the window, yes.
Yeah.
I've yet to get the finished version of the back because we threw everything at it. So we went from let's take out half the lines.
Yeah.
And we also did another version. We did one version where the director played the mate and asked me questions so that I was responding all the way through it. And so we were kind of talking over each other. Yeah. And then once we had that, I then did a version of the, without their voice, obviously.
Yep.
And so lots of different things. And we kind of played with the different emotions running underneath as much as possible.
What I would say is that I would probably say to them, look, this is how I see it.
Yeah.
And this is how I'd probably read it. And it'll be too long. I know it'll be too long. But that's what I would do. I would not try, probably, first off, to squeeze it into the
I think
requisite
that's a
amount of
sensible
time.
way. Yeah.
Because I know that I would panic. So I'll just do it how... Yeah,
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that you're upset. I'm not doing it on purpose. Look, Monday night was just a few with the lads after 5-a-side. And Tuesday, well, that was that works thing I told you about ages ago. Wednesday, we went out. And then last night was just a couple in front of the telly. I know you think I've got a problem, but I can stop whenever I want. I don't need it. It relaxes me. It's how I unwind. Well, this... It's the end of the week.
Yeah, and if there's no time constraint, it's beautiful, and it's how it reads from the page.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
but I suspect there were elements actually that felt okay speeded up.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that I necessarily got all the nuances.
But I mean, a lot of it is directorial in terms of how much is the person that is said this. Are they trying to interject, and are these sentences coming in, or are they going? I'm going to hold this pause and to make you say something else.
Yeah,
because that completely changes the energy of it. There's one person who's like, I'm going to defend myself, and I really am going to defend myself. That I absolutely don't have a problem, and it's like I don't have a problem.
I love that idea that there was somebody interjecting. I think what a great way of trying that with the director.
Yes.
That's a really nice way of doing it.
Well, it was just a way of just kind of changing, and I think taking the focus of we've got a lot of words here, and we and that's immediately getting away from but what's the message? What's the stakes? What are the concerns? How and all of the kind of character kind of questions about how to make this message as clear as possible.
And sometimes speed and humanization kill each other.
Yeah. It's also how hard you come in at the top. Are you mid-argument? Are you, look, or are you...
Which you patently
placating?
are by that very line.
Maybe.
I get that you're upset. You are, aren't you, really?
Maybe, but you could be placating within
Someone
the argument. I
crying
get that
or
you're
being upset.
Yeah.
Or I could, or you could be angry. So there are a lot of different ways you can enter the piece.
Well, I was thinking more anger, so I might throw,
Well, then
throw a
there
bit
you
more
go.
anger into.
Because it's,
Let's
I suppose
see.
my default is not anger. So
No. I wonder if anger might help me with the speed. I'm just wondering. Let's have a look. I get that you're upset. I'm not doing it on purpose. Look, Monday night was a few with the lads after 5-a-side. Tuesday, it was that works thing I told you about ages ago. Wednesday, we went out. And then last night was just a couple in front of the telly. Look, I know you think I've got a problem, but I can stop whenever I want. I don't need it. It relaxes me. It's how I unwind. This, it's the end of the week.
coming in high gives you the pace.
I think the thing that that read, what it does demonstrate, I mean, I think the really nice thing about that pace is that actually what it brings out this structural thing is like it's a bit like a sonnet. Let's go really fancy, but it's kind of like the couplet at the end is the realization. It's the end of the week, because one of the thing that we were talking about was like, is there a realization, or do they already know? Because and this was, again, to get very actory about it, it's to do with the fact that what is the more interesting dramatic thing? To have the realization as something that's already happened off stage, in which case they're just being defensive, or is there a way of them having their come to Jesus moment, essentially, that first inkling that they may actually be something, in the actual drama? They really don't think they have a problem until that line. And then it's like, oh God.
But it's interesting, Chris, because you've said you haven't heard the final issue.
No, so I can't tell you what is the right way of doing it.
No, indeed. But I am interested to see what you will give us now that you think... I'm fascinated to see if it does actually come out that way.
Yeah, I'll have a crack at it and see what comes out, by all means. But yes.
If you use that end line to get the person within the context of the ad to realise that there is a problem, you could do it so many, even with that, you do it so many different ways.
Yeah.
Does it come immediately between the what and this? It's the end of the week, or does it dawn on you through it's the end of the week? There's so many different ways that you can do it. It's because it's almost endless. So
drives you mad, but saying but like I say, I've got no idea about what the final version may. Okay. The final version may well be just I get that you're upset. I'm not doing it on purpose. I mean, God only knows. But that's why I thought it kind of like pinged out to me as kind of like, no, we went not around the houses, because that suggests we didn't know what we wanted. But it was kind of like a deliberate invitation to play and explore.
Yes.
When it's normally kind of like, let's get this done and through the can in like 5 minutes, can we? Fantastic, brilliant. On to the next.
Yeah.
Both approaches are valid. It was just a different one in this case.
Okay, let's have
Go
a
on,
listen.
Chris. I'm fascinated what you're going to give us.
Okay, Mark. Okay, I get that you're upset. I'm not doing it on purpose. Look, Monday night was just a few with the lads after five-a-side. Tuesday, well, that was a works thing I told you about ages ago. Wednesday, we went out, and then last night was just a couple in front of the telly. I know you think I've got a problem. I can stop whenever I want. I don't need it. It relaxes me. It's how I unwind. What? This? Well, it's the end of the week.
What I liked about that is that if you buy yourself time to land the end of it, if you give it some pace at the beginning.
Yeah, which is what I was saying with, Mark's thing in terms of like actually what it does in terms of structurally, I think, you kind of like, and very much my theatre training is like, if you're going to pause, you earn that pause. Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily mean like just go really freaking quickly, but, at the same time.
It's also if one is doing one's own self-direction, although that one would have been incredibly complex to do as a piece of self-direction, but it's actually you kind of almost do things differently every time. So being able to offer up 2, maybe even 3 on occasions, versions of something is massively helpful for the client if you're doing it at home, because you're right, they might find it in the edit and, make a Frankenstein edit of a bit of that. But
or they might just go, actually, we don't need Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Look, Monday night was just a few of the, but like, I know you think I've got a problem. And you turn it into like, totally. You're down 10 after the match, mate. On Monday. That's the issue. I think your point in terms of saying right up front, look, I know this isn't going to fit. I know this isn't going to run to time, but this is how I would.
Yeah.
It is a great way in a session of being able to do it.
Which brings me nicely to the wildcard part of the show, because we're going to have the time to approach these scripts in a very different way.
Oh, so Chris, can you pick one of the scripts and give one of us a new motivation or character? I dread to think what you're going to come up with.
Okay, so I think let's go back to script 1 and Mark. I was wondering if you could do this as an excitable parrot, kind of showing their home. And their view outside. What I want from this parrot is the idea of like, We've just bought into the area, and it's very up and coming.
Okay. My freedive in the kelp is at the summer's end, when the water's still balmy from a season of sunshine. The kelp looked shabby, abraded, and overgrown. Signs of imminent change and a shift towards autumn underwater. An invisible pulse of energy sweeps the ragged fronds one way, bending and flexing the stipes, then whirls them back against the other. They flutter and billow in the flow like, see these drapes in a blustering wind as the surge pours through and over them. In heavy, heavy seas, this is where their strength lies. No oak or pine or redwood tree could survive such ferocity on the land.
I mean, Sam, I think that was the read that you needed to have given in the room at the time.
That was the one. And it had a sort of, it had a sort of American feel to it.
I know. I don't know why. I don't know
And there were
quite
those
where that came
moments
from.
of realization that, it was just like, oh God, I didn't notice that, I didn't notice that
Didn't know it was shabby.
playground was there outside. Oh, it's going to be really loud. Oh shit. It's beautiful. I mean, it was,
Beautiful.
yeah. I moved.
How did you feel about it though, Mark? That's the important thing.
I felt I was definitely a red parrot. I had red feathers, and they were
visualised
arched
yourself.
at the back of my neck all the time. I could feel the red.
It was brilliant.
It felt like I was talking to some parroty friends. That's for sure.
Good. Yes, lovely. Completely different interpretation. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Very
different. For sure.
Very
Totally
different
on it.
indeed.
Is it me to choose for Chris?
Yes.
Okay.
Good, lovely. Okay, Chris. So you, now I don't know which one to do, but I'm thinking I'm drawn towards script 2.
Yeah, sure.
And you have a choice within this, not a choice of thing, but you are a fairy tale character at a speed dating event.
Ooh. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I think that gives you scope.
It does.
Is there a particular fairy tale character that you had in mind? I'm just thinking about what fairy tale character.
Yeah,
I mean, we all know what Chris looks like. If you've seen him on his social media, he's a Disney
Where
prince
are we going
already.
with that? A Disney prince. Well, he could do Disney prince. Weirdly, that's not what I was thinking.
What were you thinking?
Well, I was.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the thing is that it can be anything. If you took somebody from Shrek, not necessarily an ogre, but you could be a gingerbread boy. You could be all sorts of things. In fact,
I'll be a gingerbread boy. Let's
be
go
a
with that.
gingerbread
Sure.
boy. That's what I want to see. So, you're gingerbread boy speed dating event.
I get that you're upset. I'm not doing it on purpose. Look, Monday night was just a few with the lads over at 5-a-side. Tuesday, that was that works thing I told you about ages ago. On Wednesday, we went out. And then last night was just a couple in front of the telly. I know you think I've got a problem, but I can stop whenever I want. I don't need it. It relaxes me. It's how I unwind. well, this. Oh, see you in a week.
I mean, my voice has never made that sound in a professional
Do you know what?
space.
I could see
But
the
I
little
love
gingerbread
it.
boy. Absolutely.
The gingerbread boy.
We need to move away from that gingerbread boy very,
Yeah.
very quickly.
The gingerbread boy had a dark side to him, though.
Do you think there was a
Did have a
darkness?
dark
I
side,
don't know.
yeah.
I didn't feel that
Yeah.
darkness, but I loved the gingerbread boy. Okay. It was the way I think it was either relaxes me or unwind. You kind of lent into that gingerbread boy, and
Yeah, I think he definitely needs to relax. I think he's very highly strung.
All right, Sam, one for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get you to do the kelp script, which I realise
kelp.
puts you at a slight advantage because it's your script.
well, I don't know. It's a slight disadvantage, I would think, because I may only have one way of doing it.
I want you to be explaining this to a person who is very, very deaf and is a very noisy environment. So
Oh Lord!
they are having immense trouble hearing you, and you have to try and get the point across.
Okay, but there's lots of noise going on. But I'm
So
very
they
all right
can't
then.
hear you properly.
Okay. My free dive in the kelp it's at summer's end. When the water is still balmy from a season of sunshine. Look, the kelp, they look Yes, they look shabby, abraded, overgrown. Signs of imminent a shift towards autumn underwater. Yeah, God. No, look, an invisible pulse of energy sweeps the ragged fronds one way, bending, flexing the stipes, then hauls them back the other, and they flutter and billow in the flow like drapes, curtains, in a blustering wind. Yet the surge pours through over them, and in heavy seas, it's where their strength lies. Yeah, no oak, pine or redwood tree could survive such ferocity on land. Yeah?
And relax.
I love it.
Lovely.
They were very definitely at points going, say what?
I know.
The stipes.
I was imagining my little auntie who was very hard of hearing. She sort of slightly lip read. So I was hoping.
Yeah.
I was hoping that, because they were sitting opposite
got
me.
bits of it.
They'd have got bits of it.
What we got the audience listening to this won't necessarily get is that you were very, very physical within that. Yeah, very.
Only necessarily so. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Exactly.
Well, if you want to play along in the privacy of your own booth, as I've said before, we've put the scripts in the show notes so you can have a try in whatever style yourself.
Exactly, yes. So please do that. Now, Chris, I noticed you've got a really good blog on your website, and the last post was called The Benefit of Exposure. And it talked about how useful it is as a voice actor to be really clear about who you are and what you love and why you do the work you do, so that the right people can find you.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you give us some insights on how that would work potentially for the average voice actor out there?
My first step would be identifying what work that you want to be attracting, I think is the most important thing. And what do people look for in that work? So for me, for example, as with a lot of voice actors, they'll go, oh, I want to get into gaming. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, yeah, but I want to get into some gaming. So what I don't want to do is shout grenade for an hour. I'll be totally honest with that, and I have utmost respect for people that do, and I have done that many a time. But to be in a game to do that, there are better people than me for the vast majority of stuff. And so I'm okay to repel or not to create stuff that attracts that kind of work. Yeah. The stuff that I care about, is more emphasizing very much on the storytelling and very particular kind of elements. So I'd say first being very clear about the people that you want to be attracting, and also the necessary repelling of other things as well. And the second thing is that I would make a list of all the things that you're interested in outside of acting. And that might be a very scary list to make, because then you might go, acting, voices, the sound of my own acting, and then you might go, oh dear, all right, so let's unpick that.
It's that happy Venn diagram of what you do well and what you like to do as well, because there are things that I would like to do that I'm perhaps not best suited for. I don't tend to talk about them because immediately I would put people off.
Fear.
Exactly, the fear. But there are certainly, I'm aware there are things that I do. There are some things that I do better than other things, and so I tend to lean into those. And if I can find areas that I also enjoy, that makes my marketing and my chat about them so much easier.
Yes.
Because you're then not sort of fraudulently showing up pretending you're interested in X or Y.
Well, the whole thing about, the business branding side and everything, and without going on a whole tangent about that, but it's kind of like the most difficult thing people find is consistency.
Yeah.
There are so many hows But the first thing is, but are you doing something consistently? So having an enjoyable process, something that really kind of taps into you, and, so that you can come from an honest place with it, or authentically, if you want to go that way, whatever that word even means anymore. So I think tapping into that is a great kind of like shortcut in terms of actually getting things rolling for you, because then you feel like, oh no, this is something that's really me, that I can really kind of like share.
Chris, it's all good stuff. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been fascinating. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure, absolute delight, both of you.
Well, a reminder that all of Chris Tester's details can be found in this week's show notes.
As can the scripts if you want to do a bit of practicing. And do subscribe to the podcast and give us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Okay, that's it for this week. Thanks again to Chris Tester. We'll be back next week with more scripts and another voiceover guest, when we'll be asking, this is where we say it all together in whichever way you want to say it, Chris, really. We'll be asking
How
do you say that?
Say that?
How do you say that?